Chapter 16 of The Great Cosmic Mother, South Europe, the Bird and Snake Goddess. The goddess religion was carried into the Near East by descendants of the European Old Stone Age. They entered Anatolia via the Bosphorus and Dardanelles Straits, bearing with them countless generations of cultural, social, and spiritual development centered on the worship of the Great Mother. The Balkan region of Southeast Europe, known in the ancient world as Thrace, was one of the sites of this development. It was previously assumed that agriculture and Neolithic culture generally originated in the Near East and the spread from there to Europe in the 4th millennium BC. It has now been shown that the movement could have been in the other direction. An independent Neolithic culture existed in Southeast Europe circa 7,000 to 3,500 BC. The Metristic culture was similar to those in Anatolian, Near Eastern, and Egyptian regions, but did not derive from them. It's likely that all were seeds dropped on the way of outward migrations of Paleolithic cave people following the recession of the Ice Age. The Southeast Europeans lived in small townships with laid-out streets. They farmed domesticated animals, developed pottery, and used sophisticated bone and stone carving techniques. Located on the 5 seas, the Adriatic, the Ionian, the Aegean, and Marmara, and the Black Sea, these people traded at great distances on seas and inland waterways, transporting many items, including native obsidian, alabaster, and marble. They might have traded obsidian to Satal Hayuk as early as 7000 BC. The Vinca culture near present Belgrade in Yugoslavia flourished circa 5300 and 4000 BC. These people built large settlements of 2 and 3 room houses. 2,000 figurines of the goddess have been found in the excavations, and the first attempts at linear writing appeared there, not later than the mid-6th millennium BC, on spindle whorls, figurines, and vessels, all related to women and the goddess. The bird and snake goddess reigned supreme. As archaeologist Marja Gambudas notes, she was a combined snake and water bird with a long phallic neck, descended from the Magdalenian goddess of the European Old Stone Age, and she was the feminine principle. In the Vinca houses, there were sacred corners with domed altars, the altar pieces in the shape of the bird goddess with upraised arms. She wore a bird-beaked wooden mask, a receptacle of invisible forces. While some of her mysteries were enacted in natural caves, miniature replicas of temples have been found, showing whole buildings made fantastically in the shape of the bird goddess. The Vinca and surrounding Southeast European cultures were largely destroyed by invaders from the East. These semi-nomadic pastoralists, Aryan ancestors of the Indo-Europeans, who disturbed most of Central and Eastern Europe during the 4th millennium BC, in their aggressive infiltration and settlement, these invaders destroyed a good deal of the goddess culture and incorporated what they could not destroy. They also interbred, producing the mixed Gauls, Celts, Teutons, and other later invaders of Western Europe. Only around the Aegean did the earlier matriarchal European Neolithic culture survive unbroken into the end of the 3rd millennium BC, and on Crete in the form of Minoan culture until the mid-2nd millennium BC. But Thrace remained a major center for radiating ancient knowledge down to Pythagorean times. In the first sects, Elizabeth Gold Davis notes that the classical Greeks found evidence there of an ancient technology far beyond their own. Herodotus wrote, "The Thracians dwell amid lofty mountains, clothed with forests and capped by snow. Their oracle is situated upon their higher mountaintop, and their prophet is a woman." According to Apuleius, Thrace was the original home of witchcraft, woman wisdom. It was also the home of the 9 muses, called mountain goddesses by Herodotus, thus the legendary home of magic poetry, the wild and mysterious Maenads. It was also the homeland of one of the original Amazon tribes, warrior women who later fought in Greece against the patriarchal armies. Davis speculates that Thrace was the germinating center for all later civilizations of Sumer, Crete, and Egypt. And this may or may not be so. At least it was a strong link between original European goddess cultures and the matriarchal centers of the Neolithic Natufians, Sital Hayuk, Hassilar, and other Anatolian and Near Eastern sites. In Thrace, the goddess was worshipped as the moon, Diana, Selene, and the nine muses and the mountain goddesses were her nine magical aspects. The Maenads were her oracular priestess shamans, custodians of her primal wisdom, the legendary teachers of the later Celtic druids who worshipped Ceridwen, mountain goddess of inspiration. Orpheus, the mythic poet shaman, came from Thrace, and Davis thinks he was murdered by the Maenads for revealing their ritual secrets. Thracian Maenad teaching on the immortality of the soul and the theory of reincarnation influenced Pythagoras as late as the 5th century BC. Some years back, there was an exhibition on Thracian treasures at the British Museum in London. The catalog describes a rich culture in Thrace between 6000 and 4000 BC. The culture belonged to an unknown and mysterious people. Scholars cannot explain it. Walls were made with lath and plaster. Local pottery, gracefully made from its very beginnings, was often brightly colored and richly ornamented. In Thrace, as in Asia Minor, its images of the mother goddess, which predominate in the idols made of clay and bone, about 2800 BC, far-reaching changes took place throughout the Bronze Age, changes which contributed to the disappearance of all graces of this culture and were strongly connected with centralized rule. What is never spelled out is that centralized rule was introduced with patriarchy. Culture declined for hundreds of years, during which the ancient magical science was destroyed and forgotten, and patriarchal rapine ruled. Everywhere in the exhibit where images of the goddess appeared, and there are plenty dated from 4000 BC and earlier, she is called an idol or fertility figurine. There was a pottery model of a circular shrine enclosing 3 huge images of the goddess with arms upraised. There were many goblets and vases decorated with heads of warrior women, yet the catalog does not once speculate on the meaning of these objects. Instead, one is given plenty of information about patriarchal Thrace in later times. Men had many wives. The women did all the work, both at home and in the fields. The men considered it shameful to till the land, and their noblest occupation was to go to war and be tattooed. So is our history taken from us by male archaeologists and historians posing as objective researchers.